Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the regular council meeting for Monday, February 23rd to order. I'd like to first to start this meeting. It's an honor always to begin the meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional lands of the Lekwungen speaking peoples, represented today by the Songhees and Kasepsan nations. We are grateful to live, work, and play in this special place. May I have a mover and seconder to adopt tonight's council agenda? Thank you, Councillor Jordison, and second for Councillor Olsen. Uh, Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Um, I will start off with a message. I'm just going to give a quick update on the RCM building project. We had two fundamental questions when we went to do a quick municipal consent on this project. The two fundamental questions is the building right? And the second question was, is the price right? So we finally got an answer last Thursday. We received, I received a letter from the commanding officer of the BC RCMP, Mr. Dwayne McDonald. And basically, he confirmed that the design that is now, that has been in place is what they need, and that will last them for the foreseeable future. I'm going to tell you right now, no matter what you hear in the media right now, I can tell you that the owners group, which is the three mayors of the three municipalities and the three CEOs, we are meeting on a regular basis right now. And I can tell you right now, we're very united in our commitment to advance this very important public safety project. We're making good progress. A lot of our issues were, the other issues were the governance, making sure the proper guardrails were in place. And as we're going along and we're learning more things, we're certainly getting those guardrails into place. So I'm very, very happy with the progress we've made. We appreciate having our concerns directly addressed by the senior person with the RCMP. And I can tell you right now, I'm so happy to finally have that letter in my hand saying we're happy with this. And that was the one thing we could not, we were having problems getting before. We've heard from different people saying that, yeah, I think it's okay. And then other people telling us, well, no, it's missing this and this and this. But to finally get that confirmation is a great thing. On the price side of it right now, the owners group have engaged Abacus, which is a professional quantity surveyor, to undertake an independent a validation of the full project budget. So everyone understands here in the public what happened was that the IPT team is the same team that's going to be actually involved in the design and construction. So they were the ones that actually did all the estimates in the beginning. So it's a good practice. They say the best practice is to actually bring in an independent surveyor who actually validates those costs. So that's what we did. And we've got the other two municipalities to agree to that. So just, it's all good news. I can tell you that we've undertaken this action right now to ensure fiscal diligence on this project. So it's important. So all the pieces are coming together right now. The one thing that I'd like to state about the IPD model is that integrated project delivery model. It's never been done by this city ever on a project. And the other two municipalities that have been involved in this have never done anything under an IPD model. It is a very different approach. It's complex, actually. It's very complex. The owners group have spoken to other municipalities that have successfully delivered projects under the IPD model. They have confirmed that the relational contract model does work, and it works best when strong operational and communication channels are established and followed. That's one thing that we're learning. right in the beginning there, all this noise you hear in the media is because our communications have not been good. But we're learning lessons right now, and we're trying to make sure that we address that issue. The IPD knowledge and experience channels are established, and if followed, it could come up to a really good successful result. We can. One of the things that we've learned is that it is the most important thing for success and is communication, and we can all take heed in this message. The mayors from all three municipalities represent the owners group on the IPD. And by council resolution as mayor, I am the sole spokesperson for the city of Colwood. As the mayor of Langford, he's the sole spokesperson for Langford, and the mayor of View Royal is the sole spokesperson for View Royal. The success of this project is of paramount importance to all our communities. The bottom line is that we're going to keep our focus. We will be receiving the QS, or the Quantity Surveyors Report, the Advocates Report, at the end of this month. And our report from our own consultant, Jonathan Huggett, should be there come shortly thereafter, probably in that very first week of March. And as soon as we get it, we will call a special council meeting so that we can make our own decision on whether we give the municipal consent to this project. So it's you can see everything is very imminent here. So the basically, I just like to say the two deliverables are these two deliverables that we're going to have by the end of the month will enable us to meet the project's borrowing timeline. So that's my message on this. It is very positive. We're going to go ahead. As far as I'm concerned, up till now, there has been no showstoppers. We've had a lot of issues. We've discussed them, and we're happy with the outcomes of them right now. So we did, people said that we've slowed down the process, but we haven't. We've just showed our proper due diligence. And that's to the benefit of not only our community, but to all the other communities here in the West Shore. On that note, I'm going to move on. I'm going to ask for a mover and seconder for the adoption and receipt of the minutes of the regular council meeting on February 9th. Okay, thank you, Councillor Grove and Councillor Olsen. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Or are there any objections? Seeing none, motion carries. Okay, I'm going to open up to public participation right now. We had one written submission was received prior to the agenda publication and is attached to tonight's agenda. No written submissions were received after the agenda publication. Again, thanks to the public for their written submission. And I believe no members of the public have been registered to speak virtually tonight. Great. Okay, thank you. So I'll open this time right now for members to come up and speak. Just want to make sure that up on the front there's a slight change in procedure. There's business cards up front, and you can just grab one. They're right on the podium. So if you want a written response to your questions that you asked during public participation, just send a quick email and we'll make sure that it's responded to appropriately by the appropriate department. On that note, I shall open it up for public participation. Oh. Oh. Gotta wipe my nose on that one. Oh, please come on up. You got to come up to the podium. Oh, do you have any extra agendas? Yeah, printed. Hey, Trudy. Okay, we'll move on to item 6, which is delegations. First up, update on the hotel working group. Councillor Olsen.
Got it?
Yeah, got it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to update everyone. So as part of my role on council, I've been participating in a regional hotel working group alongside our CAO, Jason Johnson, some other municipalities, First Nations, and various industry experts. The goal and intention of this working group is to understand what is preventing new hotel development and identify practical actions that municipalities can take to improve feasibility. Greater Victoria is experiencing a growing shortage of hotel rooms, and while visitor demand continues to rise, the number of available rooms has declined significantly. This affects our ability as a region to host events, support tourism, and capture local economic benefits, particularly as major infrastructure projects and regional growth continue. Some key takeaways that have distilled from these meetings is that hotels are difficult to build right now due to construction costs, long approval times, and outdated municipal rules. Some small changes such as parking requirements, zoning flexibility, or approval timelines can determine whether a project moves forward or not. Mid-scale and extended stay hotels are currently the most realistic and needed accommodation types across the region. For Colwood, specifically, this highlights a real opportunity as our community grows. Adding the right kind of hotel capacity can help to support local business and restaurants, capture visitor spending that currently bypasses the West Shore, and strengthen Colwood's role in the regional economy. We are very well positioned for the types of hotel development that makes sense in today's market without overreaching or compromising our own community values. So people that are asking what comes next, this is ongoing regional work. And to be very clear, there are no decisions that are being made at these meetings. It is a working group. Staff are monitoring the outcomes, and I will continue to bring forward updates as recommendations translate into any concrete policy or process changes for this council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Olsen. Any questions for Councillor Olsen? Seeing, oh, Councillor Ward.
Not so much a question for Councillor Olsen. I think I certainly agree with being at the table and exploring hotel options. That type of economic development and bringing people to our community is a good thing, particularly when the average revenue per room is close to $400 now. I do think, though, we shouldn't lose sight that the demand for hotel rooms, while it's partly relevant to the demand from visitors, it's also because we've removed, in Victoria alone, over 600 rooms, short-term rental units due to the provincial government policy on short-term rentals. Also, political decisions have led to thousands of rooms being lost in Greater Victoria due to transitioning typically the more family-oriented affordable hotels into long-term shelter-type lodging. And it isn't a for or against, but I think political decisions at the provincial level have created kind of an artificial market that's really made hotels kind of priced in a category that's creating almost a little mini hotel crisis. We talk about the housing crisis, but try to get a room in Vancouver now to go see an event or something with your family, and it's an exercise for a lot of middle class folks now to be able to afford that. So I think the role of government, local government, is potentially to also advocate for a return to the market of some of these units, short-term rental in particular, because we have an obligation to try to appeal to a broad demographic, and particularly with the housing market kind of flattening, the massive influx of condo developments that we see now, and federal government capping immigration rates, temporary foreign workers, and things like that. I think we'll see some normalization. So while I think hotels are wonderful, I think Colwood can also be at the table in the conversation around restoring property owners' rights to rent their property. So that's just my feedback on that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Olsen, for bringing this forward. I appreciate the regional collaboration and intent to address hotel feasibility challenges. I just want to ensure that we're following good governance practices though, and because this is the first we're hearing about this working group at a council meeting and like formally. And I just want to confirm whether participation by Councillor Olsen constitutes formal representation of the city at these working groups.
Good question. I'm going to tell you right now, this, because of the level of this right now, in our own charter and bylaws, it's not really a formally recognized committee of any sort. It's just a working group. And I just want to emphasize that again. And the CEO is represented on this committee, and I randomly selected on availability a counselor. So I will wear that, but it's not a formal appointment of any sort.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mayor. I was just, I'm more concerned about liability for Councillor Olsen in that endorsement. That's the only thing, just, with acting on a working group without proper council endorsement. That was my only concern.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll let the CEO come first.
The working group is coming up with recommendations that will go to each of the councils within the region for consideration. So there is only recommendations. It's not regulation or anything of that nature. It's addressing issues that have come forward like DCCs, floor area ratios, that stuff that's tough for developers to meet the test for. And they're looking at it from a regional perspective with recommendations to each local government. So there isn't anything that is coming out that would impact the regulations of this council, because this council would have to make that decision.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, and I just wanted to express to council, as there is minutes, and at any point in time, if anyone is interested in learning more about the conversations that are happening in this working group, you can certainly ask me. They're available. Again, it is just a working group, so there's no real formal structure again, and no decisions are being made.
Thank you very much, Councillor Day.
Thanks. I'll keep it brief. I just wanted to chime in with what I've seen as the need for some spaces within our community. The wedding venues that are very popular at Olympic View, for example, may draw a large number of extended family from outside the region to come to Victoria, either returning or coming back. And the current situation is that the only place you could get close proximity would be Langford. So at the moment, you're looking at Colwood Corners or over by Costco or somewhere along Goldstream Avenue for venues that are existing in our area and providing resources to support community. There's also a number of occasions I work in real estate transactions, and a number of times when homes sell and there's a gap in time between when the new home is available and when the old home is vacated, the hotels provide a necessary resource for families that are relocating as well. Just those 2 points to make.
Thanks very much. Okay, we'll move on to 6.2, advancing municipal waste collection, and Trevor Apperley from the Royal Bay Homeowners Association. Trevor, you have 10 minutes.
Haven't done it. This is just forward and back.
Then point it over at this computer here.
There we go. There we go. Good. This presentation builds on Council's March 2024 direction, highlights what neighboring municipalities have done, and focuses on why timing matters for both residents and the city. Council direction and timeline. Nearly 2 years have passed since the original feasibility motion, and while the policy notion hasn't changed, timing and execution now require renewed focus. Residents are already paying directly for private collection, and with rising costs, with costs rising annually, Municipally contracted procurement may offer an opportunity to introduce pricing discipline. Fragmented services not only affect residents financially, but also create municipal inefficiencies in cleanup, wildlife response, and road maintenance. The City of Langford's recent approach shows that a municipally coordinated system can deliver both cost and environmental benefits, which is directly relevant to Colwood's context. Multiple private, if I can get this working, multiple private trucks on the same streets at different times lead to higher costs, emissions, and community disruption. These are inefficiencies a coordinated system can address. Across the region, most municipalities have moved to municipal or contracted collection. Colwood faces a timing-sensitive environment with neighbors already advancing procurement. Should work. But it doesn't. Oh, there we go. Delays in moving toward coordinated service mean continued cost escalation for residents and potentially reduced competitive leverage in the market. Must be me. This slide compares the current fragmented model with a coordinated user pay system that could streamline operations and standardize service levels. Procurement markets are highly time sensitive, and upcoming elections add an added additional constraint, making it important to consider options now. When I say procurement, of course, I'm talking about the need to go out for an RFP or RFI in order to get some pricing reality. Transitioning to a municipal user pay model would enable route consolidation, stabilize costs, and allow the city to optimize and standardize service levels. Vendors allocate fleets and staffing regionally. Entering the market later could reduce competition and weaken pricing leverage for Colwood. This is the financial risk associated with delay. External factors like rising labor, fuel, and fleet costs make early procurement a tool to protect long-term ratepayer affordability. With the election period approaching, major service transition decisions must be completed in the administrative window available before the statutory campaign period begins. This is a matter of process timing. This slide illustrates the trade-offs between acting now versus deferring, highlighting potential costs, timing, and market consequences. Council is not being asked to award a contract today. The request is simply to clarify timing, advance analysis, and maintain competitive positioning so options remain available for informed decision-making. By acting within this window, Council preserves competitive leverage, safeguards affordability, and strengthens administrative clarity. This protects both ratepayer value and optionality for the City of Colwood. This is a time-sensitive opportunity aligning with regional procurement that is with View Royal and with Langford, allows council to base future decisions on real market pricing while retaining full discretion. Since the original motion, public engagement has now been completed. Cost comparisons are available and regional activity has accelerated. Circumstances have evolved since March 2024. The original motion was exploratory, clarifying timelines and authorizing parallel procurement now would preserve optionality and strengthen analysis without committing to implementation. This draft motion provides a concrete, measured option to accelerate study and market testing while maintaining council's discretion and protecting ratepayer value. Beyond affordability, a coordinated municipal service signals administrative maturity, enhances livability, reduces environmental impact, and positions Colwood as a growth-ready community, all while preserving a user-pays structure and without increasing tax rates prematurely. Nearly 2 years ago, Colwood directed staff to explore the feasibility of municipally coordinated waste collection. The policy question remains open, but the context around it has changed. Neighboring municipalities have advanced procurement, resident costs continue to rise, inflationary pressures are real, and the administrative window before the next election cycle is narrowing. This presentation is not about approving a contract tonight, it is about timing. Acting now does not commit the city, it simply preserves competitive leverage, ensures access to real market pricing, and grounds any eventual decision in current data and sound governance. Waiting does not preserve neutrality, it risks narrowing your options. The choice before council is whether to maintain flexibility from a position of strength or to allow timing to make the decision for us. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Trevor. I really appreciate the time and effort that you put into this. Thank you. Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Trevor, for the presentation this evening and for the work and analysis that has gone into bringing this forward. I do want to raise, this was originally a motion I had brought forward, and I do want to raise one concern for clarification. The more I've looked into it, if we move toward a single municipally contracted provider for residential services, are we unintentionally accelerating market consolidation in our region? And what I mean by that is right now we have multiple private haulers that operate independently. Under a winner-take-all contract model, only one provider would serve all 1 to 4 unit residences. So my concern is that smaller local operators may not have the fleet size or the capacity or the capital structure to compete in a large consolidated RFP. So if that occurs, we may achieve short-term efficiency and potentially lower the rates, but over time reduce the number of viable competitors in the market. Fewer competitors in future procurement cycles could weaken our pricing leverage and ultimately increase long-term risk to taxpayers. So I think we need to look at how we design procurement to preserve competitive diversity. And there are some ways that I've come up with. I think when I originally envisioned this, I didn't think of it as one sole provider. So I'm not opposed to exploring the municipality managed model. It's just about ensuring that in pursuing affordability and efficiency, we don't unintentionally reduce long-term market competition and flexibility. So I believe staff are looking into this, and I just wonder if there's anyone here this evening that could speak to when this might come forward to council.
Go ahead, John, please.
Thank you, Worship. We have been in conversations with the town of View Royal and City of Langford. Originally, staff's intent during what we formally did was a service review for the 5-year financial plan. Those meetings were supposed to occur in late November, early December. And it was at that time we were going to bring forward the results of the survey work that we've done, as well as some options with regards to moving forward. Because we've had a rescheduling of the 5-year plan, we've moved forward with discussions with View Royal and Langford anyways. So we are having discussions with them now with regards to putting out an RFP for all 3 communities. It's a little different in that View Royal's service is already established. So they're just re-upping with regards to the service that's already provided, and they'll have a bunch of constraints with regards to their service delivery. For instance, they have a certain tote that they use, and their truck is tooled for that tote. Because Langford and Colwood have the ability to really adjust and decide how they want to do it. You can go to like a sandwich model where it's like you can go to a small tote, a big tote, a large tote, like different size totes, which then means different trucks and so on. So it was staff's intent to bring that forward. But in the meantime, we've started doing the homework with Langford, and the intent is Langford is going out with an RFP that all 3 communities would piggyback together with an RFP proposal and see if there's some synergies. And I agree with Councillor Jordanson with regards to it will be difficult for small business owners, because if we go to say a 1 truck solution where 1 truck can do all 3 communities, there's probably great savings in that. Our municipality at 20,000 might say be a truck and a half. So you've got to pay for 2 trucks, and you have the risk of what do they do when there's repairs? You might have service interruptions. But if all 3 communities, or even probably Langford with its size and our size, you probably go to 3 trucks, 4 trucks total, and be able to have a spare that they cycle in and out, so there wouldn't be service disruptions. So there's a lot of things that we could look at to create synergies, and I think I agree initial savings would be great. The waste industry has lots of room for smaller independent ones, but I think probably there might be a couple of losses in there. But certainly I would think the initial cost savings could be fairly substantial. So it was staff's intent to bring back something to council to decide which direction you wanted to go. But in the meantime, we're putting them things in place with the RFP with Langford, so that we could run that and see where we go and get some options back to council.
So what's the timeline, John? So that's one thing on that.
Our next meeting actually is tomorrow, with the hope to get the RFP out sometime in March.
I wonder if there's a multi-zone contracting where the city is divided into service zones, so multiple companies can win different portions of it. If there's a way to do that as well, like I don't know, or a prime plus subcontract model where you require the winning bidder to subcontract a percentage to local companies. I'm just trying to, it's really unfair, as much as I hate using that word. It's and so that's my concern just about the other providers, because quite frankly, sometimes the little guys are maybe the better providers. Sometimes they take more care, and there's just a lot more offered. And currently the provider that I use actually is one of the lower priced ones too. So anyway, it's just something I thought of, Trevor, and I just wanted to bring it up. I'm happy to keep going forward with this and seeing where it goes.
No, I can't. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, interesting to know that the discussion's already happening with Langford and View Royal. I tend to be a little gun shy when it comes to establishing an additional partnership with our sister municipality, quite frankly. But in this particular case, there's economy of scale, and it's logical to explore. I just wonder about the parameters on this. I know one of Langford's driving motivations is around municipal pickup. Like community garbage cans, if you will. They're overflowing everywhere. And that was sort of the optics or the political reasoning for them to really explore this. So there's a difference there, I guess. So if we're looking at an RFP with them, I just wonder how we align some of the varied needs. And then I wonder who it applies to. I mean, you mentioned small business. Does it apply to stratas, for example? So, I've done some research and the cost savings certainly exist for single family homeowners, but I don't know if it's there for strata properties, of which we have quite a few. Frequency of pickup is another one that I think residents would be really interested in. So for me, I'd like to see the survey, obviously, before, see if we can get any kind of sense of what the community thinks. And then I'd like to see some of that granular detail. I don't want to see a scenario where, we're rewarding some at the expense of others. But I also don't want to see a scenario where, a small group of residents, if you will, negates a cost savings for a much larger group. So I just feel right now we just don't have any information. And my question was going to be around the timeline. And because I think Mr. Apperley has raised some really good points in terms of timing. I mean, this was 2 years ago. It's taken us a long time to get to this point, and we have a limited time frame if we were to look at doing something, at least in alignment with Langford. Less so View Royal, because as you said, I think Mr. Rosenberg, through the chair, you alluded to the fact they are just re-upping. They're not looking at something new. So I suspect it would end, unless we were just willing to accept that contractor, it would be us and Langford partnering up on something like this. So I'm going to need more detail before can make any kind of next move, but I think it's timely to bring it forward. I appreciate the presentation from Mr. Apperley, because I think this has been dormant for too long, and it's time to get some answers on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Warren. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I'll be brief because there's been lots of discussion and there's lots more information yet to come. But I think there is a good motivation for looking at what this contract could do for us. I do know that in my own neighborhood, there are numerous contractors that work the same area. So there is definitely more trucks on the street. There's certainly some predominant larger companies that are doing most of the properties, and I suspect that those companies are probably the ones who would be able to respond to the RFP as well. But it is going to be really key to have the information come back to council and to give council choices to consider. For myself, many years ago, opted for trying to reduce my carbon footprint, including for my garbage collection, and reduced my frequency of collection as a result of that. And it's been fine. We've managed to ensure that no animals get into our refuse and things like that. But the resulting benefits weren't there when I realized that it didn't matter if I only got my garbage picked up once a month. Everybody else was getting it every 2 weeks or every week. And so there is, that double-edged sword of having a big contract for everybody is going to be less flexibility in many cases and less cost savings. I would say I'm definitely on the lower end of the cost scale as well. But I don't want to preclude a betterment for the majority of the community just to save a few pennies for myself. So I think we need that information to come back, and I would just, I think what we can take away from this is council needs a little more heads up on what you're working on, so we don't go flying ahead thinking we're not doing something when it is in fact in the works. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jason, please.
Thank you, Mayor, through to council. This is the reason that we do quarterly reporting, to show you all of the 160 plus initiatives that we've got underway. So you can see that, an overview to see where we're at with that. So the next quarterly report will have that with an update, who's responsible, what the timeline is. And that would be the appropriate time again for council to dig back in on this if you want more information. This has come from the floor from members of the public, but council will have this every quarter to make sure that it's meeting your expectations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good, thank you. I just want to congratulate Mr. Johnson and Mr. Rosenberg for moving forward in their discussions with Langford and View Royal. I think that really is important and bodes well for this administration in terms of what it's accomplishing.
Thanks very much, Trevor. Okay, we'll move on to item 7, which is the consent agenda. There's only 2 items on the consent agenda. Is there anyone that wants anything pulled? If not, I'll look for a motion. Thank you very much. Councillor Jensen, seconder. Councillor Grove. Discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on. Thank you. Move on to new business. And the first item is Fire Service Master Plan. If I can get Mr. Johnson to introduce the speakers, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the Fire Service Master Plan Phase 1. The recommended motion for council to consider is that council receives the Community Risk Assessment and Fire Service Master Plan Phase 1 to inform financial and planning considerations. Our Fire Chief, Chief Byran Erwin, is here as well as the consultants to provide council with a quick overview from this and to answer your questions.
Thank you. Over to you, Brian. Chief.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you're aware, the fire department has undertaken an organizational review as part of this, the development of the Fire Service Master Plan. The master plan was intentionally developed in 2 phases. One to address the short-term needs, and the other to identify the long-term actions required for fire service protection in the city of Colwood. I'm pleased to introduce that the Emergency Management Group has been working closely with Fire Service Administration as well as key stakeholders throughout this process. This evening, you're going to be hearing from our presenters the findings of the Phase 1 Master Plan. And with that, I will turn the floor over to our presenter, Mike Burgess.
I don't know how you're going to do that, Mike, but you got 10 minutes. I'll give you 12 maybe. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, staff, Chief Erwin. Thank you very much for having me here tonight. My name is Mike Burgess. I am a fire services consultant with the Emergency Management Group and a longtime resident of the Capital Region, and it gives me a great pleasure to present this report to Council tonight on behalf of the Emergency Management Group. Joining us virtually this evening in support of the presentation, we have Greg Henkiko, who is the project manager for this engagement. Also contributing to this consulting team for the project was Lana Kiernan, Haida Fortier, Eric Norland, and Daniel Hebrington. Our team of consultants is here with us virtually and will be able to answer any questions relating to their areas of focus within the project. This presentation summarizes the community risk assessment and Phase 1 findings of the Colwood Fire Master Plan. The purpose tonight is to outline where the department stands today and what requires attention for 2026 and beyond. The CRA was completed using the National Fire Protection Association 1300 standard framework for community risk assessment. It provides a structured assessment of Colwood's risk profile. It evaluates community growth, building stock, hazards, infrastructure, demographics, response data, and regional context. With that foundation, we then assess whether the current organization is structured to meet that risk. The CRA evaluates 9 core profiles ranging from geographic and demographic trends to building complexity and historical loss data. These 9 profiles collectively describe growth, hazards, demographic, and response capability. The key takeaway is that growth and densification are increasing service demand and complexity. Colwood's growth for the development pattern is changing the operating environment for the fire service, particularly with higher density housing and larger, more complex buildings. The purpose of this context is to show that the direction of travel, more demand, more complexity, and less margin in capacity doesn't keep pace. This context also highlights that fire service needs are directly tied to land use decisions, densification and building, form drive, response requirements. The CRA helps ensure Colwood has a clear, evidence-based view of that linkage as we plan for 2026 and beyond. A summary of the community risk assessment, there are several key findings council should understand. The CRA confirms Colwood is moving from a lower complex risk profile to a more urban, higher demand profile. The most important takeaway is that the growth is now a primary driver of service demand. That growth increases operational complexity, more people, more calls, and more situations where multiple incidents overlap. The department is performing well, but the system has less buffer than it did historically. The next 3 slides summarize the primary risk categories identified in the assessment. Core incident risks reflect the type of frequency of emergencies the department responds to, including structure fires, medical incidents, technical rescues, and wildfire interface exposures. As density and population increase, both frequency and complexity of incidents increase proportionately. Operational capacity risk reflects whether staffing depth and deployment align with the incident demand. The department performs well, but concurrent coverage relies on limited structural buffer. Governance and systems reliance risks reflect the degree to which Colwood depends on regional partnerships, mutual aid, dispatch integration, and regulatory compliance under the Fire Safety Act. Regional collaboration functions are effective operationally, but long-term resilience requires more formalized agreements, regulatory alignment, and sustained coordination. The strategic implications are straightforward. Sustaining current service levels under the current growth requires structural reinforcement, not simply maintaining the current model. In summary, next slide. In summary, the CRA tells us the risk environment is increasing in complexity. The central question becomes, is the department's current structure and staffing aligned with that risk level? In terms of the path forward, phase 1 of the master fire plan was designed to answer that alignment question. It examines organizational structure, staffing stability, operational readiness, fire prevention, training, and the financial baseline. Phase 1 is the immediate stabilization component of the fire services master planning process. Phase 1 focused on the department's current state, structure, staffing, operations, fire prevention, training, and financial structure and baseline. The objective was to determine whether the capacity aligns with the current and projected risk. The findings of phase 1 inform the immediate 2026 priorities and longer-term roadmap. Phase 1 was structured around 5 defined deliverables. These deliverables reflect a comprehensive review of organizational structure, operational readiness, and fiscal alignment. The focus was practical, identifying immediate priorities for 2026 while informing longer-term planning. The review process incorporated stakeholder interviews, internal data analysis, regional coordination review, and performance benchmarking. Performance was benchmarked against recognized regulatory and industry standards, and the department is achieving approximately 90% compliance with the first arriving unit benchmark. Regional automatic aid is functioning effectively to support surge capacity. Overall, the system is performing well, though it operates with limited structural buffer. In terms of the phase 1 key findings, the primary finding is staffing sustainability. The department is transitioning to a 4-platoon model under the collective agreement, which improves scheduling consistency. However, current staffing levels do not fully support a sustainable 4-person engine model without reliance on overtime and paid on-call coverage. Chief officers are frequently required to provide operational backfill and relief, which limits the department's administrative and strategic capacity. Operationally, response performance remains strong within a single station model. However, concurrency is trending upwards. Automatic aid reliance is increasing, and sustained 4-person engine coverage requires structured staffing growth. The department is meeting demand, but doing so through workload compression rather than capacity expansion. Fire prevention capacity is limited and not yet structured as a fully resourced division to align with the Fire Safety Act. Training plans are well developed, but delivery capacity is constrained by staffing pressures. Organizational depth and succession planning and officer development remains limited. The phase 1 recommendations focused on phase staffing growth towards a sustainable 4-person engine model, strengthened administrative capacity, and formalizing divisional oversight. In addition to frontline staffing, phase 1 recommends formalizing officer development and succession planning through a structured framework aligned with the NFPA 1021 Professional Fire Officer Standard. Strengthening administrative capacity is also required to support fire prevention, training, oversight, emergency management, and compliance obligations, functions that are currently supported through dual role assignments. Operational recommendations focus first on stabilizing 24-hour readiness. This includes continuing the transition towards 16 career suppression firefighters by 2028 to support predictable platoon coverage and reduce reliance on chief officers providing operational backfill. The goal is to maintain consistent 4-person engine staffing by better integrating platoon and paid on-call scheduling. These measures ensure today's strong response performance remains stable as demand increases. For 2026, the immediate priority is staffing stabilization. Accelerating scheduled hires reduces operational strain and supports safer, more predictable coverage. These steps do not fully resolve long-term staffing needs, but they meaningfully improve resiliency. Phase 1 concludes that Colwood Fire Rescue is performing well and meeting operational benchmarks. However, the review identifies that staffing and organizational capacity are at their practical limits. As Colwood grows, the current model will require deliberate reinforcement to sustain 24-hour coverage and operational resilience. Long-term sustainability depends on incremental staffing investment, structured capital planning, modernization under the Fire Safety Act, continued advancement of technology and systems, and strengthened regional collaboration. The recommendations provide a practical pathway to stabilization in the short term and build sustainability over the long term. Just like to thank Mayor and Council, Fire Chief Erwin, department staff, and all the stakeholders who contributed to the development of the community risk assessment and this phase 1 interim master fire plan report. Colwood has experienced a significant period of growth and development in the last few years. And throughout that time, the fire department has continued to perform at a high level. The city's willingness to examine its performance carefully and plan responsibly for the future reflects strong governance and a commitment to public safety. So, Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for your time. I and my colleagues online here are available to answer any questions you may have.
That's great. Thank you very much. Can you just back up the slides to the recommendations, please?
Yeah.
Again? Sorry. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Starting there.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. And could you just move 2 forward from that again? You were trying to speed up to make sure we were on time here, but got one more. Yeah, I read that one. One more. One more. Oh, one more. Sorry. Must have been the last one. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, thank you. Thanks. Great. I'll open the floor up for questions from council. Councillor Dave, you're first.
Thank you. I'm going to keep it to just 2 questions to try to be fair to everyone here. The first thing that I noticed when reading through the presentation and your reports was I found myself looking for disaster response to be included, and I did not see that anywhere in your slide presentation. So earthquake being, you know, a big concern in this area, and just our readiness for that wasn't mentioned. I just wonder if there was a reason for that.
Through the chair, I'll defer to the chief in terms of the scope of work of the project.
Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, through the mayor. The disaster response, yeah, was outside of the scope of what we actually had within the master plan under the, but I would say the disaster response in itself, you certainly it does raise a high risk to us here. What our response capabilities to that would be, is going to be limited in our current capacity. And that's the short answer.
Fair enough. You can't be expected to do something that that is not possible. And the other thing that I've noticed in the reports, and it's been for some time now, but our one of the increasing pressures is life safety, which I assume is us rolling to mostly car accidents when ambulances aren't there yet. Is that I don't know if that's correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just wondering, is there any opportunity for us to ask other service providers to step up on that front rather than always relying on the fire department?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, through the chair, in terms of the use of the language life safety, it's more broad in context in the sense of we talk about fire and life safety. So the fire department's all encompassing, all hazards approach to responding would fit within that use of that terminology. So fire and life safety generally speaks broadly to fire prevention activities, public education, general life safety outside of the scope of operational response.
I see, but I've been noticing for years now the numbers creep up with the number of car accidents that we're having to respond to and how much that is tying up our fire services. So there, without much effect, there's been a number of resolutions at UBCM, for example, trying to increase the service available through the ambulance services.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, in the context of motor vehicle accidents versus first medical response, they're two sort of different streams. One, medical response being responding in partnership with BC Ambulance Service or Emergency Health Services through the Medical First Responder Program. Currently, that makes up a significant portion of Colwood's fire rescue response profile, as it does for the majority of fire departments in the province of BC. On the other context, I think that we're talking about response to motor vehicle accidents, and from a rescue capability, Colwood Fire, obviously responds to a significant number of motor vehicle incidents within the community based on your arterial corridors. So I think, I'm not sure exactly if I've answered your question, but they are two very different sort of emergency response streams, one driven more provincially through BC Ambulance Service, and I'm aware of a number of resolutions that have come through UBCM over the years in the context of, seeking relief or funding from the province as a result of municipal governments providing that support service. And I, generally speaking, the province, puts that back to the municipalities that it is their choice to respond to those incidents or not.
Thank you.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, my question was just going to be around the risk summary and where disasters fit or didn't fit, but I think you've answered that already. I just know that's something in the community people have talked about, the big one for a long time, and I think we look to the fire department as kind of our the folks we're hoping are coming to the rescue and have a plan. So, but I appreciate you've answered that already. So instead, I think what I would just say is that, kind of juxtaposed to my comments on one of the previous agenda items about concerns about partnering with our sister communities. I'm contradicting myself and saying that we've done an excellent job in that area with the fire department. I think, Chief, you and your team have really demonstrated the value there, and I noted it in here as one of the key findings that our operational resilience depends on this structured, formalized collaboration. So I think that's a credit to our fire department for for building and maintaining those relationships. And you know, is one example of where regional collaboration is something that's great for us all. So in the absence of the other question having been answered already, I'll just leave it at that. And thank you for a comprehensive report, and thanks to the fire department for the work that they do.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is just, I guess, with where I work my daytime job, we have just kind of taken on the fire crew and within Island Health, and they have brought to us a number of concerns about fire safety inspections and how since August 2024 and into 2025, that's really ramped up. And there's quite a checklist that involves like daily checks, weekly checks, and all like a whole gamut of things. And I'm just wondering how that affects you because of the buildings that the city owns, and there's fines that can be imposed and all kinds of things if you don't have the proper documentation that you've actually been doing this. Does that fall on you guys at all with the municipal departments?
Sorry. Through the chair to Councillor Jordison. That's a really good question. I don't think a lot of municipalities do a really fabulous job with their fire prevention, and that's something that is provincially mandated that we're really required to get into. We've been able to do our fire prevention through dual role, and as the city grows and becomes more complex, and some of the things like you just talked about, we really need to have dedicated resources for that have the specialized knowledge. I wouldn't say that with the new act that there's been an increase in the individual owner or occupier's requirements or obligations. There are some that are coming, and we're waiting for some more information from the province on that. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question at all.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Jensen.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. It was very comprehensive. Thank you. And it was a lot to take in, but did make a couple of notes while you were talking. I think we've beaten up the ambulance service a little bit, but is there an opportunity to mitigate some ambulance service call responses? My extended family has an ambulance service member, and I'm led to believe that responses differ from agency to agency, especially in the rural outlying areas. The core is what it is, and very much necessary, but perhaps out here in the fine western communities, perhaps we don't need to go to every bloody medical call.
Yeah, I'm through the mayor to Councillor Jensen, if I may. I don't want to speak for Chief Erwin here, but there are a number of things at play now provincially that are changing. There is a new first responder services agreement that's been introduced by BC Emergency Health Services, and it is starting to make its round through the Fire Chiefs Association. Within that new agreement, communities have the opportunity to, or communities are required to develop what's called an ORP, or an operational response plan. Within the operational response plan, there is a requirement as that plan comes forward to identify the level of service that the community wishes to, or pardon me, that the city wishes to provide to the community. So with that light, I would transition to Chief Erwin here to speak to the level of service currently provided and where he may be going in that regard.
Thank you. Through the chair. To continue and build on what Mr. Burgess said, the new agreement that's coming out does allow us to identify the call types that we would like to attend, and what we want to provide to our citizens of the city. And that is something that I'm happy to kind of gather and bring back to council at a later date to really decide what we'd like to get to.
I think you're hearing us. We've discussed this over the years, especially at Protective Services when it was around and stuff. And previous chiefs did a lot of work and a lot of discussions in this area, and outright saying, no, we're not going to these, but we'll go to those. And so it just seems like it ebbs and it flows. So I think we'd love to hear something about that. Back to your review, Mr. Burgess, there's lots of threads in here about continuing the relationships already well established, and it's, I think it's a bright spot in this sector, how well established the longstanding agreements are between agencies. But I didn't see that there was any information in there about sort of going to that next step or deepening that collaboration. I'll give you a for instance, say, and I'm just spitballing here, as uneducated in this field as I am, you know, things like say, well, a good for instance, there's groups of policing agencies in Vancouver that are getting together and they're going to deliver their own training program because of the failings of the policing academy. Is there an opportunity here to deepen relationships on things like inspections or prevention or, you know, again, training? It would break my heart to think that we can't put a bunch of junior firefighters in the same room together and teach from the same slide deck for all three departments.
Through the mayor to Councillor Jensen, I mean, I think it's an excellent issue that you raised, and I know it is touched on, you know, within the report generally. I would say that Colwood Fire and the West Shore Fire departments have done an outstanding job of working collaboratively and cooperatively together. It is a model that is looked at, you know, within other areas of the capital region, more so on the North Shore. It models itself off the North Shore departments, being the District of North Vancouver, West Vancouver, and it has been, you know, well executed in this area on the West Shore particularly. I think the challenges that come with it are quite simply is that Colwood Fire is a single station department. It has, you know, one primary response apparatus that is staffed through career staffing and paid on call staffing, and that provides frontline service to the city of Colwood. When that resource is moved and moves around the region, that does leave exposure within this particular area. So I would suggest that, you know, as the model continues to evolve, and I think Chief Erwin has rightly pointed out that we've seen an expansion in Langford with their staffing the number 2 station on Happy Valley Road, that provides more support and coverage within the region. Expanding that general concept of collaboration, functional integration, so to speak, into other areas of fire prevention, life safety, public education, emergency management and such. Absolutely, there's opportunity there. And I know that the department is engaged in those conversations.
Perfect, thank you. The unified command structure, you mentioned that there were some concerns there, but it went by really fast, or I'm a little bit slow. Or was there, or did I miss something? That there was some, the unified command,
I think I brushed over it quite quickly in my notes, but more so in the context of regional collaboration, that, you know, unification of command, you know, not just fire incident command, but our other public safety partners being, you know, police and ambulance at significant incidents.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's no per se issue with the fire command structure.
No per se issues. I think where we were going in that regard is that the structure is working well. The governance and the agreements behind it require some attention to become more formalized. And this is a conversation that we've had with the chief just in regards to the.
As in it's informal currently, or what?
I'm sorry?
It's informal currently, or where does it sit?
It needs more formalization, more documentation, more policy procedure guideline. You know, the agreements need to be tightened up.
Thank you. And Chief, I see you nodding. Anything? I don't want to leave you hanging if you got something to say.
No, through the mayor, thank you. Mike did a good job answering that question for me. And I think what it comes down to is, yeah, we have to start looking at developing more regionalized SOGs in regards to some of our command practices. Those are things that we've all got the same level of education and training. It's just a matter of formalizing some of those things to make them a little bit more structured.
Perfect. I'll yield. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Olsen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some of my questions have already been answered, and some might be suitable for more suited for budget deliberations. But my question was around at what point does our overtime spending exceed the cost of adding another firefighter? I don't know if you're able to.
Through the chair, we'll be highlighting this during budget deliberations, but there has been what I would consider a rather significant increase to the overtime budget in order to address some of the challenges that have been highlighted with this work, and also that you've heard from the team in the last couple of years. However, given the nature of the staffing plan and just really specifically how we staff up to service this, overtime is necessary. So even if we had one additional member, there would still be the need for some overtime.
Right.
But we'll get into the specifics of that.
I
with
figured
budget
we would. It
consideration.
would be nice to get a clear picture of that and what we're spending and have been spending maybe over the past 3 years in overtime, just so that we have just a clear picture of that. Thank you. Also, I had one more question. Are we planning to preserve or move away from paid on call into the future? Just curious.
Through the mayor to Councillor Olsen, I think that paid on call component of Colwood Fire Rescue is a significantly important piece of the department and its surge capacity. Similarly, just to be able to provide support to the department as it responds. There's no question that the 4-person staffing on the initial response engine needs to move towards a full-time commitment. Currently, right now, you're using paid on-call staff and a combination of career staff to provide that 4-person coverage. But beyond the initial response of that frontline engine, when more resources are required, certainly the volunteer capacity that the department has will be fully utilized and should continue to be, evolve and develop with the program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask you about something that popped in my mind a few months ago about the corollary between fire service and fire insurance, home insurance, fire aspect, I assume. There is, I did a quick search just over the last few days about, and something popped up called a dwelling protection grade. Do we use that? I understand there's 5 levels, and that can affect your fire insurance premium or home insurance premium, where we would set, I think, at number 1, the very least 2, I'm not sure. And the lowest level though is like a remote rural where you would have no fire coverage, could add up to $2,000 annual increase. So I'm just curious, we use that grade, if it comes into our considerations in any way. I think maybe the public would be interested to understand, even from a positive point of view, the value of the money that we put into the fire service and how that sits in fact, is a financial benefit to everyone.
Through the mayor to Councillor Grove, great point that you raised. The fire underwriter survey, is the backbone of insurance ratings for those that insure their properties. The dwelling protection grade is just one component of what you mentioned. There's also the public fire protection classification, which is a grade as well. Dwelling protection relates to the single family occupancy residential structure. And that grade defines the department's ability to provide fire protection to that, within a defined period of time, and to provide a proper fire flow of 150 gallons per minute, I believe it is, within the timeline of arrival. The public fire protection classification relates more to the commercial and industrial infrastructure within the district. And as you continue to grow and take on more commercial properties, that becomes more of an issue for those insured parties. The dwelling protection grade for the city of Colwood, I believe, is level 1. Is that correct, Chief? Which is as high as you can get. So what that means is that Colwood has the highest dwelling protection grade, and they can provide that service to the residents. The public fire protection classification, I'll let the chief speak to exactly what the grade is there. Grade 4, which, that's not uncommon for a community of this size. Certainly there is room for improvement in various aspects of the fire underwriter survey, not just fire protection, water supply, infrastructure. It's a multifaceted grading process. The last fire underwriter survey that was done for the city was 2019, 2021. So, I mean, typically it is something that you would want to have a look at every 5 years. And as the department continues to change, build, progress, as the community expands, I think underwriters can bring a lot of value to the community and help to, balance insurance costs versus taxation.
Thank you. Very helpful. Thank you. Interesting.
Councillor Jordison.
Mayor, actually, I was hoping to make motion, so I'd like to give you an opportunity to speak prior. Oh,
That's all this is, a receipt for consideration. So,
okay, at this point, yeah, okay.
yeah, I do have some questions. Sorry. So my first question is, one of the things that really I find alarming is the chiefs. You know, there's an old saying, you can't see can't see the forest when you're working in the trees, right? So it's concerning. So are you finding that you're hands-on a lot more now? Do you keep stats of that right now? 'Cause that's an alarming thing to me. When I heard this, I read it, I went, oh my God, how did we get here? So
Mr. Mayor, again, short answer, yeah, it does impact our ability to perform a lot of the functions that we're required to do. We are, as you know, there's 2 operational periods within 24 hours. Where you see the chief involvement largely is Monday to Friday, and we're backfilling trucks throughout the week. This is a norm for us now. It's not a one-off, it's becoming more and more the norm. Our crew firefighters, as much as they jump in and they'll pick up shifts and help backfill gaps, they are becoming fatigued and burned out. Our ability to offset some of that demand is what we'll do to ensure that we can continue to put a truck on the road.
okay, that's great. Thank you. My second question is, again, you had something in that slide that I find alarming again, and that is the increase in the medical response. And it's not something that I want to, thank God you guys are around. You saved me, a month ago, but it's something that I find just so alarming that the more and more of that is getting stuck onto us right now. And I don't know what any other municipalities are doing about this, but this is kind of getting kind of crazy, to tell you the truth. It's concerning to me. It's almost like I want to turn around and send an invoice to BC Emergency Health Services, because I don't think it's fair to you guys. I mean, maybe you consider this core, but I don't personally, but that's just me. But thank God you're around for that. I was hoping that I remember the last number you produced for me a couple of years ago, Chief, and that number was just like way out of whack. And if you're saying it's increased, it's concerning to me right now. So my question is there any recourse? What can we do to help you with that right now?
Mr. Mayor, I think the best course at this point for this is really to look at the next BC ambulance agreement that's come out, and start to determine what the appropriate call types that council wishes the services we provide to the community, and from there we can build a plan.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. The third question I have, and actually it's for you, Mr. Burgess, and in fact, I wasn't too sure, like you had something, you quickly whipped up something about measurements. And so the success of the phase 1 is, what do you already have those key 3 or 4 measurements that you have? I would imagine it's the fatigue, it's the paid on call time, and it's overtime.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I didn't hear exactly what the question is.
Yeah, so you just sort of had the measures of performance.
Yeah.
And so what I was asking specifically is that, have you actually identified the 4 or 5 key measurements, the outcomes that you're going to measure to see the success of your phase 1 implementation? Do we have those identified?
In terms of the response performance metrics of the department, those have been analyzed and measured in terms of the call processing time, the time that it takes for the department to turn out to an alarm, the time that it takes to respond and be on scene. Those time components generally are looked at through the lens of the National Fire Protection Association standards. However, some communities, and certainly I think in Colwood's case, it's measured against the BC Building Code in terms of a 10-minute response window. So from the time of alarm to having a fire apparatus on scene, can it be done within 10 minutes? And the performance metric there is 90% of the time. And currently Colwood Fire is meeting that performance metric.
Yeah, yes, right. Okay, I'm with this right now. I guess the only other question I had, but I guess that's not until phase 2. I guess the long-term consideration for me right now is, when do we have to expand the fire station? Or is that phase 1? Is that phase 2? Or when are we going to address that?
Through to you, Mr. Mayor, certainly the fire station was evaluated as part of the master planning process. I think there'll be a more detailed sort of analysis of that coming in phase 2 of the master plan.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's perfect. Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Thank you very much for the presentation, and thanks guys for getting this all done. It's
Thank you.
again, we really appreciate all the information. So it's all things that we can put into our head for budget time. Okay. We shall move on to we got to start on this one to the next item, which is the National Urban Park Project Public Engagement Strategy. Oh, yes. Can I get a motion to receive? Thank you, Councillor Olsen, Councillor Jordison. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Over to you, Mr. Johnson. Please introduce the speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the National Urban Park Project Public Engagement Strategy. The recommendation is that Council endorse the park engagement strategy for phase 2 of the Greater Victoria National Urban Park Project as presented to Council on February 23rd, 2026. There is a presentation should you wish to receive it, and Desiree Gibbons, our planner, is here to do that if Council wishes.
Please, let's proceed. I haven't seen this. So.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor and Council. So the public engagement strategy for phase 2 of the Greater Victoria National Urban Park Project outlines who we will engage, how we will engage them, and how feedback will be captured and reported back. The overall process for designating a national urban park is broken into 4 phases: pre-feasibility phase, the planning phase, designation phase, and the implementation. The Greater Victoria National Urban Park is currently moving from pre-feasibility phase to the planning phase. And during this phase, we're shifting towards creating the park vision, governance model, and exploring park boundaries. This phase involves nation-led community engagement and broader public and interest holder engagement, while continuing to respect Indigenous leadership and direction. The overall goal of the engagement is to foster inclusive and transparent public engagement that centers Indigenous priorities, builds community awareness and support for the National Urban Park Project, aligns with stakeholder input with Indigenous-led direction, and strengthens collaboration among the partners, including the City of Colwood, Parks Canada, and Indigenous partners, and the broader community. So in terms of who we will be engaging with, the City will be engaging the City of Colwood, Mayor and Council, committees, and staff. We will also be engaging with residents of the City of Colwood as well as the Greater Victoria area, which will also include targeted outreach to families, newcomers, seniors, youth, and people with disabilities or mobility challenges. We'll also be engaging with several environmental and stewardship groups, some of which will include LC, Scenic, the Greater Victoria Green Team, and the Peninsula Streamkeepers, as well as business and tourism groups, which will include the Wishart Chamber of Commerce, as well as the City of Colwood's food and accommodation partners. Some other audiences include community associations and recreation groups, such as the Intermunicipal Advisory Committee on Disability Issues, the Victoria Natural History Society, and the Urban Development Institute within the Pacific region. We also engage adjacent landowners, which includes the Department of National Defense, Pacific Landing Development, residents of Belmont Park, Lagoon, Beach, and Royal Roads neighborhoods, as well as the Beachlands developers and Two Waters developer, and Royal Roads University. And then lastly, we'll be engaging with several regional, provincial, and federal partners, which includes BC Ministry of Environment, BC Transit, Canadian National History Society, Canadian Wildlife Service, Fisheries and Oceans Canada, among others. And so just in terms of how we will be engaging these different audiences, engagement tools will include a project webpage, which will be posted on the City of Colwood's Let's Talk Colwood platform, and will provide a central information hub for residents to learn more about the project. We'll also be administering a survey, which will be distributed electronically as well as available in hard copy format. We'll also be setting up sounding boards at various locations throughout the city to engage with residents that might not come up to some of the community sessions. So these will be displayed at locations such as the Juan de Fuca Rec Center, the Fort Rod Hill site itself, as well as local grocery stores or coffee shops. In addition, we'll also be hosting community and youth engagement sessions, which will provide opportunities for input for the community and more detailed discussions beyond the survey, the Let's Talk, and the sounding boards. We will also be hosting several different workshops with council and various committees, as mentioned on the previous slide, as well as one with staff and key interest holders. In terms of how we will communicate throughout the engagement phase, there are several different tactics that will be employed, including the Let's Talk Colwood and city website. We'll also be issuing a news release and employing a social media campaign. We'll also post flyers and posters up throughout the city at key locations and send direct invitation letters and notices via mail to adjacent landowners. Advertisements will also be published in the newspaper, and we'll distribute information about the project through an e-newsletter. So once the engagement phase is wrapped up, we will be summarizing the results of the engagement in a What We Heard report, which will include a summary of the engagement activities, including who participated, key themes, and feedback that was received, and recommended next steps. The report will be shared with all the project partners, as well as council and the public. In terms of the financial considerations, the Parks Canada has a contribution agreement with the city of Colwood to fund up to approximately $253,000 of eligible expenditures, which includes time for staff to participate in these discussions and lead public engagement. The proposed engagement work will require approximately 235 staff hours until June 2026, representing roughly 5% of the planning department's available hours during this time. Staff believe this workload is manageable and within the current resources. So the recommendation before you tonight is that council endorse the public engagement strategy for phase 2 of the Greater Victoria National Urban Park project. Endorsement will allow staff to proceed with implementing engagement activities as outlined. Some of the other options within the report include proceeding with endorsing the public engagement strategy with additional edits or deferring for additional information. With respect to the timeline, engagement is planned to launch within in early to mid-March. It is the engagement strategy is meant to be flexible, so and the launch date does say March 2nd, but we will look to possibly launch it in closer to mid-March. And then with anticipating to close the engagement period in late April or early May. What We Heard report would then be shared in probably June 2026. This timeline helps keeps the project moving forward while allowing enough time for participation and analysis. Okay, thank you so much for your time. I'm available if you have any questions, and we do also have a couple representatives from Parks Canada, including Alana Green and Kirby Delaney, in case you have any questions for them as well.
Great. Thanks so much, Desiree. I'll open the floor for questions from Councillor Day, please.
Thank you. It all looks very in order from what's being presented for public engagement, but as yet I don't quite thoroughly understand when we're looking at including lands in the National Urban Park designation. I'm not quite sure what that means for those lands or for us. Does that mean that there's a financial contribution from the city? Or does the title actually change hands? Does it need to be owned by the city or only managed by the city in order to do this? So I'm just trying to get those basics clear in my mind.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Day, and through the chair. So the park boundaries are currently still being explored, and that will be one of the focus areas of our engagement. So we're looking to ask the community what lands do they think should be included within the National Urban Park, and we're mostly looking at lands that are owned by the city in terms of what that would look like and with respect to how the park would be administered and shared responsibility between the different partners. I think that's something that we're still looking to define in the upcoming phases. But at this time, it is meant to be high level, and we're seeking input from the community members on that. And then
I just want to add to the National Urban Park Program that Parks Canada is new to Parks Canada in the last few years. It's not set up through legislation, so it's set up through a policy designation, which means that a designation of a national urban park doesn't mean that Parks Canada is going to own, manage, operate the land, but we have the ability to designate it, which means that there could be a national urban park that has multiple landowners and multiple administrators of those lands. So it wouldn't necessarily mean that Parks Canada would come and intend to have any sort of administrative purpose in that.
Great. Well, I think it would be very beneficial where we actually had, the biodiversity report like has been done for Esquimalt Lagoon. Those reports help us to understand changes over time with use, etc. So I think that is very beneficial anywhere we have a natural environment that is preserved and could be maintained into the future. So thank you very much.
I just have one comment, and that is, I'm just looking at the way we're going to communicate. It's the normal way we always communicate these things, and in my eyes, it's not good enough. Like we just don't get, to me, the feedback that we should be getting. So I was just going to suggest one other thing right now. We have these electronic notice boards all over the place. Why don't we start using those things and put them on the key arteries, and so direct them to, the Let's Talk Colwood.ca, whatever it is. But I think we got to do something else because it's the same old, and it's the saying is you keep doing the same thing the way you always have done it and expect different results. That's just insanity. So, I'm just suggesting it as a new way of doing it. Got to do something different. And the only other question that I do have, and maybe it's just too early to say at this time, but I'm just trying to understand what decisions do you think we'll be having to make, from a council point of view in the future? Is it governance related? Is it like what do you anticipate? I know you haven't probably done this before, but would you have some anticipation of what type of involvement and decisions you'd be looking from the city itself?
In terms of the governance model, the partnership table right now, we have, of course, the Four Nations and the City of Colwood and Parks Canada sitting at there. The exploration in the planning phase, I think, is when you'll start to hear from us more after the what we've heard published by the City of Colwood. And indications from our nation partners on this. In terms of the governance model, I think once we define the study area, things we'll need more input from the City of Colwood leadership in this, because we still don't know the study area. So in terms of the landowners and administrators, deciding how we make decisions together, I think is going to be the next step, and understanding the implications of having lands be included. So as an example, that has been discussed at the partner table is the formation of a stewardship board. And so we would have to sort of nail down the details of what would a stewardship board look like, who would sit on a stewardship board, how would that be administered, and things like that. So there's still lots of decisions to be made, and it's still early in the process. But as we continue into the study area and into the planning phase, we'll have more details about that, and we'll look forward to briefing you more on that.
Okay, super. Thank you. That's a great answer, actually. So thank you. Seeing no other questions or comments, I will ask council for someone to move the recommendation and a second. Thank you, Councillor Day and Councillor Jensen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. I am going to take a 5-minute recess for health break, and we'll come back here at 10 after 8, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll come out of recess here and we'll move on to item 8.3. And I'll get CEO Johnson to introduce, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is nuisance property abatement and cost recovery for 3244 Wishart Road. The recommendation is that Council declare 3244 Wishart Road a nuisance pursuant to the nuisance abatement and cost recovery bylaw number 2002 and authorize staff to start charging for municipal services, including police, fire, bylaw services required to abate nuisance activity. Council will see in the report itself that over the last 4 years, Bylaw Services has received 13 complaints from this particular property, including 8 complaints within the past year and a half. Okay. We bring this forward with not lightly, given that this has an impact on property owners, but when fines don't seem to suffice, we have to bring these forward from council so that we're recovering our costs so that the residents can know that nuisance abatement and properties that are unsightly, have an accumulation of garbage, and construct without permits aren't something that council will allow. We do have our bylaw enforcement officer, Rick Smith, if you have any questions regarding this recommendation.
Thank you very much, Rick. Your report was pretty thorough, pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to open it up for questions from council. And we'll start with Councillor Day.
Thank you. So the pictures that are included with your report, they really just don't look that bad to me, to be very blunt. And on numerous occasions when we've been out on tours with council, looking at road infrastructure, etc., I've seen properties that have actually been much worse than this that we are not hearing about. So for my part, I have seen not that long ago, I don't know any of the participants personally, but I saw a post through the Facebook page, the Colwood community page, saying that this property had recently changed hands and that the owner was trying to get on top of a number of issues that were sort of historical that he inherited with the property. And so I think that I just don't feel like the case has been made for this particular property, and some of the complaints may relate to a previous owner. I'm not sure if you've looked at that.
Through the chair, yeah, I have looked at that. This homeowner recently bought 4 years ago, and since that time, it's nothing but complaints. We've tried to educate him, tell him what to do. He's a new homeowner. Warnings had no work on him. Tickets had no work on him. There's still one outstanding fine. These photos are just of the front yard. Maybe I should have included the side yard as well. Even if you walk by today and you look through the fence, you can see the toilet sitting there through the gate. So it may not be like some of the ones you've seen before, but with all the multiple complaints, the neighbors are just fed up.
Thank you.
Councillor Jensen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I don't have any issue with that, and don't recall bylaws even having to come to our neighborhood 13 times to 1. That's excessive, and that's staff time. And I'm more concerned about the non-permitted works and stuff like that. So I think this case is more, this as presented is more than valid, and I'm happy to support that. I'm happy to move the motion if you're ready, Your Worship.
Yeah, I'll go back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Well, Councillor Jansen beat me to it. I was prepared to move the motion. I've taken the liberty of exploring it myself. You know, and I mainly because I didn't think the photos really spoke to justification to do something. But then I also know that Mr. Smith doesn't come before council frivolously. In my 3 years that I've been here, you know, I have only seen things that were actionable. So I took a look personally, and you know, the side yard speaks to it. You know, taking a look in the back, I'm sure it moves up and down, but I'm going to put my faith in your work, and the volume of complaints to me speaks volumes. So if Councillor Jensen wants to make that motion, I would second it.
Thank you very much. I'll come back to you. Councillor Jordison.
I just, I wanted to say the same thing, Rick, that I too, I didn't think the pictures justified it and I was concerned. Um, and then I even looked on Google search and it looks fine. But you two, you don't come before council with these sort of things lightly. So, I have my full support and I do, I did talk to Councillor Olsen about this earlier and some of the previous ones that have had this attention drawn to them, they really clean up after and take notice. So it does improve our neighborhood. So thank you for the work you've done.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a mover in Councillor Jensen, a seconder in Councillor Ward. Any other further discussion on it? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Record show, Councillor Day has opposed. Okay, we shall move on to bylaws. 9.1. We will, that's, if you want to introduce it, Mr. Johnson, do you want to get in the hot seat or you're going to stay there, Mari?
I can introduce, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna just do a little intro and then we can go to the actual bylaw. So yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. So this bylaw is to amend the CD 30 zone, which is our beachland zoning, to reduce the rear yard setback for 1 and 2 family dwellings from 6 meters to 5 meters in areas 3 and 7. So I firstly just wanted to address the impact that this amendment has on the building footprint or the size of a house. So the reduction of that rear yard setback does not automatically mean that it would result in a larger building footprint because there are other regulations within the zone that would still apply. So they have the front yard setback, the side yard setbacks, and most importantly would be the lot coverage. So the lot coverage in this zone is 50%. So the ability to build a larger house is not necessarily tied directly to a reduction in the rear yard setback. It's more so tied to the lot size or lot configuration. So smaller lots in beachlands, it would be less likely that you would be able to build a larger home and still remain within that 50% lot coverage. Now, as lot sizes increase, it would be more likely that you could build a bigger home with this reduction in the setback and still maintain that 50% lot coverage. So I just wanted to sort of make that comment that this reduction in setback doesn't automatically mean that you can build a bigger home. It is related to the lot size and the lot configuration. I also would like just to mention that this is a reduction in the rear yard setback. That's the only change with this zone. So the height, the lot coverage, the parking requirements all still apply. All of the conditions that we secured through the development agreement at the time of the original rezoning still apply. Those are still requirements of this developer. And I think it's also important to sort of consider, particularly with these master plan communities, when we're developing zoning regulations in advance of them going for a building permit, learning of sort of these constraints on a site-by-site or a lot-by-lot basis would not be able to occur at the time when we develop the zoning regulations. So these targeted text amendments, when they're at the more detailed design phase, is not necessarily uncommon. So that was just my little intro, but I'm here for questions. Do we need to read out the bylaw?
Well, we'll do that after. There's some questions here first, and then I'll go to Marcy for reading of the bylaw. Councillor Day.
Thank you. We did have a letter asking some questions, particularly when we offer additional setback to a development, a relaxation without really receiving any plan or any proposed benefit as a result of that change. I just would like to understand why we would approve that change without any assurity of any benefit for the community.
I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second here. Mea culpa. I didn't realize that people wanted to speak to this issue. So I will go to public participation at this point in time. Sorry about that. Sorry, folks. I get excited up here all the time, so.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. Roger Conrad, Colwood. I attended both meetings and I caution Council for the reason for this. You know, they want a 1 meter relaxation and setback, but they really didn't give a real reason. One of them was they wanted more space at the front so they could park bigger pickup trucks. Another one, which I couldn't follow, was they wanted something to do with patio so they could step out evenly on the ground. Doesn't matter if it's 5 meters, 6 meters, 10 meters. It depends on the elevation of the ground to be able to do that. So I just did some rough calculations and I spoke to Desiree. One of the lots is 9 meters wide. That's the smallest lot. She couldn't give me the depth, but the average lot size was 795 square meters, which equates to, when you do 50% build out, that is 397.5 meters. For old folks like me, that's a 4,278 square foot house. Now, the only reason you would want to build a house on a small lot like that is so you can suite it. And that's my concern. If you start suiting all these homes, you're going to put more traffic onto Machosen Road. And I don't think Machosen Road or our infrastructure right now is going to be able to handle that. These developers have been here for quite a while. This isn't their first go around. They had plenty of opportunity to build or plan or design or engineer larger lots. But the push was more and more and more lots. Now we got the lots. Let's see how big we can build the houses on. So I really ask you to take a second sobering thought and think, what are the real reasons for this 1 meter pushback? And I attend that it's for suiting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I was going to make the same point that Councillor Day was making, that, and she made it last time when this issue was raised with Seacliff and Reliance, and that is they haven't committed to do anything. They said that this would enable them to do something, but they didn't commit to give the city of Colwood and its citizens anything. So we have to get out of this mindset of just giving things away to developers thinking that we're an undesirable location. This is a beautiful city. It's in a beautiful location. We have so many things going for us. We got to stop giving the farm away. And we should be asking for things that are beneficial to the city or beneficial and/or to the citizens, or both. We shouldn't be doing this type of thing. And I've seen it over the last 6 years, and it's the same people. They're very experienced, Seacliff and Reliance. They have a lot more experience than all of us put together in this room. And they know how the game is played. They know how to manipulate cities and councils and staffs. And I think we've seen enough. And I think we want to see our city being considered first and our citizens being considered first. And if Georgia and John aren't prepared to give the city anything, we shouldn't consider giving them anything, because everything they ask for every single time, it basically improves the value of their land, and they're not going to build on all of it. They're going to flip a lot of it to other smaller developers, and so they'll just be able to charge more and make more money. I'd ask you to consider that and really look out for the city and its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public? Okay, do you remember what the question was, Mari? Okay, we'll resume with you so you can answer Councillor Day's question, please.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the question. So I would say that this amendment is more of it's a targeted text amendment that would be more administrative in nature. I would say that because they are at the more detailed design phase now, that they are able to actually plan out homes now that they actually have subdivided lots. It's a lot easier now to understand what those constraints would be compared to at the time when we developed the zoning. So I would say that when we brought the zoning forward, that is when we negotiated everything that is within the development agreement. So that's the significant amount of parkland that they're going to be giving us. None of that has changed. And so I would say that if we had known the constraints of the lots at the time that we developed the original zoning, it likely would have been 5 meters at that time, but we would not have requested more than what we already requested and registered within the development agreement. So that is why we did not necessarily ask for anything more than what they're already giving us.
So with not as, well, I haven't ever seen us ask for anything more when development plans have been changed, and we've accepted that. So I'm looking to understand, did they provide any pictures or any diagrams to show why they needed the extra relaxation of the rear yard setback?
So when this request came in, it was a part of their original rezoning application, which was to add the hotel and motel use. At that time, they were developing plans for their single family developments. And that was when they learned of this constraint, and they communicated to staff that they would likely be coming in for variances to the rear yard setback to make the homes work. And so staff suggested that if it was going to be a frequent request, that we could integrate the reduction within the rezoning application, as we were already sort of opening the zone up to add hotel and motel to area 1 and 8. At that time, we did not see any images per se. Staff have conducted mapping assessments based on the difference of the rear yard setback, 5 meters versus 6 meters. And that's where we did the assessment of, if you increase the building footprint, would you still be able to remain within the 50% lot coverage? So as I said previously, the smaller lot sizes, you would not be able to increase that footprint because you would likely go over that 50%. We did a calculation and it went to 55%. So they would not be able to increase that building footprint, but the larger lot sizes, you may be able to increase that building footprint while remaining within that 50%. I would also just like to clarify that the lot sizes within Beachlands, they're roughly under 450 meters squared. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
So we've been asked to relax the setback, but we haven't been provided any specific rationale, just that they found that it was a problem. So we have no diagram, we have nothing except their word, basically, to go on that that's what they wanted.
So if I could just add for council, this isn't a relaxation of the setback, this is changing the zone. which would change the rear yard setback for all of the properties within that. And a zoning amendment is a discretionary power of council. Council has the ability to say yes or no. Council has the ability to ask for more information if that's what you so wish in order to look at this application.
For sure. So I guess from my point, I would really like to understand it better because it's part of a trend that I have seen from 2002 to now, when we had Royal Bay come in as a master development proposal. Any amendments that have been made have been to the benefit of the development. There have been no changes made to that development plan for the benefit of the city. And there has been, I guess, there's no reason. There's been no monetary benefit. There's been no explanation of what the result of this change will be from that side. And that is what I would like to see in order to make a responsible decision on whether or not that's in the best interests of the city of Colwood.
I have a quick question right now, and it's apropos. Is this the whole beachlands is covered under is not exempt from Bill 44, 46, 47? Is that correct?
That's correct. So right now the zone currently permits a secondary suite and all of the single families. And then when we do come forward with small scale multi-unit housing, it would be eligible for that.
Right. So yeah, we don't have a choice. It's mandated. Yeah, okay, so I just want to make sure I was clear on that. Okay. Others, other questions, Councillor Ward?
You have to forgive me. I'm going to meander here for a moment, but I obviously read the letter as well and wanted to address a couple points. I don't agree with the assertion that they haven't given anything in fairness. I think when we go back to the most egregious change of 2022, yes, the city left hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table in terms of CICs. It was a massive failure. It changed the electoral history of this council, and was objected to by, in fact, 100% of the people who came to the meeting that day. It's a video record. So there was a huge mistake made there in terms of what we could have extracted in terms of value. That's a given. I think when it comes to the parks issue, though, I think a little context is required there. I advocated for the parks plan. I still stand by it. I object to what was said in the letter. I'll be honest with you because I've done my homework. The original master plan, original area plan of 1996 had 37 acres of what was termed open space parks / greenways. It was very broadly defined. That included the hillside on Machosen. The interim master plan in 2021 expanded that to 43 acres of parks and greenway, still including the hillside on Machosen. In various maps, it comes in and out, but it's always there as part of that open space. The plan we approved has 48.1 to 50 acres of park, which exceeds both of the original plans. And I know it does because I had meetings myself with the developers one-on-one seeking to regain parkland at the top section of the northwest corner because of the residents of Kenning Court who had come to me. I had a meeting with them in Royal Bay where they were outraged by the fact that they would have homes adjacent or behind them at the very top of that hill. So to their credit, and I think it's only fair to make the public aware, which I did at the meeting back in the Parks Plan time as well. Seacliff and Ryan's came forward and said, okay, we'll put that land back into park so that these homeowners don't have their view obstructed by a small development on the top of that flat section. And we also wouldn't have yet another entry point onto Machosen Road. So I want to just note that they have given. Is it as much as we probably were owed for what we've given them? Absolutely not. That's a known for sure. But I just want to kind of set the record straight and I think try to find some balance here. My understanding is, in speaking with some of the individual home developers who are building on these lots, is very much that it is related to driveways and things. But I think the comment that we have no guarantee on that is a very valid one. And that's where I absolutely agree with what's being said in the letter and what's being said by Councillor Day here as well, is that there are no guarantees. And time again, that has come back to bite us. Royal Bay, that has happened many times. The potential for it happens in beachlands. You know, I digress, but moving forward, I'd like to see us change some of the rules so that, you know, we can attach a master plan developer to the vision. So they either have to build it themselves, or if they sell it, the zoning reverts back. They cannot simply get rich off rezoning. I have a very real fear right now in Latoria South that now that the developers there have reached their profit stage and are in the closing stages of that, that it becomes more beneficial to sell off parcels of land for who knows what. So, you know, what control do we have over that? And it's very limited. And when you start thinking about the beachlands, and this is not a criticism of them, again, I very much respect both Seacliff and Reliance and the people involved, but we could reach a point many years in the future where the last remaining parcels are the pieces they have said they will do last, which is the plaza, the piece that draws everybody to that development. And we will have no control if they suddenly decided to sell that and somebody else use that zoning to do something else. So this is a relatively minor item. I know it's a text amendment, but you know, I was prepared to come in and just simply raise my hand and vote for it and move it forward. And it gives me pause for thought as I've been ruminating on this for a couple of weeks now because of Latoria South and some things happening there, not happening there. I don't know. But I think we have to kind of put the flag up and ask ourselves, is this something we want to do? Now, I know at the Planning and Land Use Committee, when this came up, it was very divided, and the questions came about, you know, what about doing this on an individual case by case basis? So for a specific builder, they want a setback variance, it has to come forward. We have to understand why. And then to Councillor Day's point, you see the plan. Why do you want that variance? Okay, it's because you want a larger garage. Makes sense. Now it makes work for everybody. The downside is that you don't have uniformity necessarily in that neighborhood. You're going to see some homes that just build, you know, to the size that or to the setbacks that's there now, and you'll see others that maybe look for something different. But I guess we just have to question if it's a big enough hill to die on. And I'm not entirely sure it is, because suites, the argument made in the letter about suites, it increases the size a little bit, but I think if somebody really needs a suite, at the end of the day, they're going to put that in if they're looking for the mortgage help or whatever it might be. But I don't feel like this is the location where people will do that, but I don't know. There's no guarantee. So I don't know where we're going to go with this, but I think what it does for me is raise a question beyond the decision this evening about how we hold master plan developments to account to the vision that residents expect. So I think there's a lot more work to go after this one, and I wait to see motivation from other folks and commentary to see which way we'll go this evening.
I'll jump in then. So I would like to see this go back and be reworked. So we get that guarantee. That's how I feel about this right now. And I don't know, you know, if there's ways that you can word it, if you've done it before, but I think I obviously see, you know, some of the drawbacks of this right now. Clearly understand, and it that's kind of concerned me, because we're here today, and next term it can be a whole new council, and they're being taken advantage of. So I am concerned about this myself. So I was sitting on the fence about it. At first, I was pretty nonchalant about it because I thought, well, you know, 50% is 50%. You're not going to change the darn thing. But I guess I'm more concerned. But well, the one factor is I had to make sure that I know a comment was made by the public tonight that you know, secondary suites, but we don't have options on those anyways. I mean, they all fall in within the current guidelines with Bill 44, 46, and 47. And but the one thing that we can, I just don't know what the motivation here is with the particular developer. Now, the one that I picked up on obviously was the garages, and they needed bigger garages. But then again, if we don't have wording in there to protect us and protect that particular community, then I do have a problem with this now. And the more and more I thought about it, I kept on thinking to myself, I don't buy into this now. I need that specific guarantee to make sure that what they said, we're gonna hold them accountable for what they said. So that's how I feel. I think it should go back and be rewarded somehow, or come and tell us how we can protect ourselves right now in that community. Just my thoughts anyways. Open the floor for anyone else. Councillor Jensen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I heard your motion to refer, and I'm happy to second that. I think that we've all raised the questions, and I think staff have that. I don't think we require any more guidance whatsoever, but I think there's enough question there that it should go back. I'm sure there's some answers for most of this, but let's just hear what they are. Okay, thank you.
So that is the motion on the floor then. Okay, so any further discussion on this? Oh, Councillor Ward, sorry.
Two things. One, clarity. So you're saying refer to staff is the motion?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, I would also add that I would seek an amendment to that it refer to staff and then come directly back to council and not go to the planning and land use committee for a second time, because both sides have been argued there at this point.
I will take that as a friendly amendment, that's for sure. You get that? Okay, perfect. You okay, seconder? Okay, perfect. Any other discussion? I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to 9.2. Marcy.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we have bylaw notice enforcement bylaw 1911-2021, amendment number 1, and it's for Schedule B, and it's going for first, second, and third readings. And I have bylaw officer Smith here. Should you have any questions?
Any questions? Okay, there's a mover, seconder, Councillor Ward. Discussion. Seeing none. Any opposed? See, Councillor Day opposes. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have sewer local area service enlargement amendment bylaws going for first, second, and third reading. Colwood Main sewer local area service bylaw and loan authorization, and that's for LS enlargement for 532 Allendale Road, and Colwood West sewer local area service establishment and loan authorization bylaw, and that is also for 532 Allendale Road. Thank you.
Okay, any motion? Okay, Councillor Ward and Councillor Jordison. Any discussion? Seeing none, any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimous. Thank you. And there be no further business. I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much for attending, everyone.